Further stories are coming out about the way in which Kwasi Kwateng responded to Liz Truss, that he didn't stand up to her at all, except when she tried to impose a long-term agreement about energy, buying gas supplies from the state-owned energy company Equinor in Norway at a cost of 130 billion. This would have secured a deal at the same price for 20 years, and the Treasury believed that gas prices would eventually fall, and therefore that deal would be foolish. But if that's the only time that Kwasi Kwateng stood up to her, then it demonstrates an inadequacy with Mr. Kwateng, which I simply did not anticipate. But it doesn't surprise me greatly. That position as Prime Minister is wreathed in an aura that I suspect would be difficult to challenge, but nevertheless it must be challenged by those people around her. Liz Truss was clearly a fool and clearly should have been called out at the first opportunity. It took 49 days before people realised how stupid she actually was. Seldon's book, How Not to be Prime Minister, details the problems that she faced. He thinks that she was better than Boris Johnson. The stupidity continues, of course, as well as the arrogance, as demonstrated rather well by the picture of her in the green dress looking surprised when a "We Led by Donkeys" sign descends from the heavens saying, "I crashed the economy." She has to recognise that her failure now goes into the history books, and she would like to blame groupthink from officials and the media for the economic damage that she did. But assigning blame is the stuff of people like Anthony Seldon. Liz Truss needs to turn the page and get on with doing something productive for the rest of her life, rather than trying to defend her period in office. That period in office speaks for itself. It wasn't long enough to be judged as a success by anybody's standards. It was clearly a failure, and she needs to recognise it. She cannot be a cheerleader for Donald Trump because she is a disaster herself. If she wants to be a cheerleader for Donald Trump, that is like the kiss of death. And equally, the louder she speaks is not going to generate any sort of audience. The louder she speaks, the more like a bully she appears. And people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who back her all the way, are smeared with the same rubbish. And yes, she took in a lot of clever people, but the fact that she didn't take them in for very long is perhaps something to celebrate. It's easy to trivialize her, it's easy to dismiss her as mad or stupid, but it's important to recognize that she represents an underbelly of the Conservative Party that needs to be tackled head on, that needs to be identified and dismissed, ridiculed into non-existence, because while that exists, there is no reliable opposition. Our constitution, our unwritten constitution, relies on the recognition and the respect of the two sides of the House of Parliament, of the House of Commons. One side is Her Majesty's government, and is His Majesty's government, and the other side is His Majesty's loyal opposition. And they are both important. And the opposition is there to challenge, and to challenge responsibly, the actions taken by the government. This opposition could not challenge anything at the moment because it can't take its mind away from its own failures and its own obsessions and itself. It is an onanistic opposition, just as it was a self-obsessed onanistic government. It needs to grow up and stop playing around with itself.